Welcome back to The Square. I'm Bryan Greene. Today, we're exploring the power of research, specifically how it moves from the page to the built world. Our guest today is Eiman Graiz, an analyst with Echo, our sustainability team here at Corgan. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we were talking when we first met, actually, and you mentioned that you had grown up in Jordan. What was that like?
So growing up in Jordan is totally different than what you have in mind. Jordan is a small country, but even though it has like different lifestyle between regions, I grew up in a town in the north, and it was interesting because it was full of greenery and it was up in the mountains. So just that experience, it made me think a lot, especially when I start moving to other cities and I start experiencing different natural elements over there. So that was something sparks a lot of thinking in my mind.
So what was the point where you get to thinking about architecture? Talk to me about that discovery and how you ultimately kind of decided to pursue that as a career.
So actually, it was like, I don't know if it was like something directly like told me go to architecture, but just the differences between areas and how I was feeling in each area that gave me an idea that I should pursue architecture. So in the town where I grew up, it was a historical town where all the buildings were old, all the stones, where you can like see, or each building can tell a story. But then when I moved to Amman, which is the capital, I start seeing the modern architecture where high-rise buildings, glazed buildings. So that was something totally different. So the feeling was different. The mood of the entire area was different. So that sparked something inside me just to understand what they are experiencing more than what I experienced when I was living in that area. So the idea of what mood and what feeling you can feel in different type of buildings, that what made me interested in architecture.
So we'll skip ahead just for a sec. So just so people know, you've got an undergrad, 2 masters, and a doctorate.
That's correct.
Okay, so take me back to undergrad. So you decide to go to school for architecture. You go through that whole process. Then you're like, I'm going to get my master's. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to get another master's. Talk me through just kind of that thought process and just kind of the pursuit of your education.
So like everyone hear about my education, like feel like, are you crazy? You spent 12 years in education. Yeah, it's long, but to be honest, each period, like I learned something different and I enjoyed each period of my education. So for my undergrad, it was like the regular architectural degree where I learned how to design, what is the meaning of spaces, what functions, and I learned a little bit about sustainability and a little bit about human behavior in architecture, but that was like for 1 or 2 courses, but mainly it was a design degree. Mm-hmm. Then for me, like there is always that professor who sparks something in you, and I took that class, which was about sustainable architecture, and it was like mainly an introduction about different ideas of sustainable design. So I decided, okay, I want to learn more, but by that time, my school, they didn't offer anything related to sustainability, so I decided to go for a master's degree. I went to another university. I started my master's. It was focusing on energy performance and facade systems. And with that one, I really tried my best to understand what's the meaning of sustainable design. And I felt like I can make an impact and my work could have an effect for architects and also for people. And but by that point, I said okay, I'm not doing any more education. And
it's time to get a job.
Exactly. So I started working, and while I was working in Jordan, the industry was a bit small, or the market is a bit small. So it was really hard to implement any sustainable ideas in architecture over there. So I started thinking, like, what is the way to go back to my passion and to do something meaningful? And when I was searching, I found the only way is to go abroad, search for some other country and try to pursue a career over there. And the only way was to come here to the US is to learn first a little bit about like the industry over here. And the best way is to do any type of degree. So I started a combined degree, which is a master's and PhD at the same time.
Okay.
So it's two masters, but this master was combined with the PhD. So it was like one journey. And that's how I decided to come here.
So you come from Jordan and you land in Lawrence, Kansas. Talk to me about like that culture shock and just what you were thinking. Like as soon as you kind of step off the plane, your first week versus like 6 months versus like a year. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, you just make me go back in memory to that day. So I remember I landed in Chicago first. And as I mentioned, Jordan is a very small country. And everyone knows everyone. Also,
right.
Like it's a tribal community. And then I landed in Chicago with a very crowded airport. I know no one. The language is different than what I expected. Like even the accent, like we speak some English in Jordan, but the accent can ruin everything.
Yeah.
Then when I moved to Lawrence, it was like around 1 a.m. So in the morning when I woke up, it was a shock because I woke up, I looked from the window, and it was like just green. Like there was no buildings, nothing. And in my mind, I will see like America, the one in the movies with high-rise buildings,
right.
a lot of people. So that was a shock at the beginning.
You kind of talked about being able to kind of make a bigger impact and have a sense of community. Talk about just kind of your growth, your time at KU, not only, architecturally, but like personally as well.
Oh, so actually, like me right now is totally different than me when I came in 2019. It's totally different, not just in like my experience in academia, but my personal life was different. Doing a grocery here, it's a new experience. Trying to meet people, talk to people, try to make your own family, like friends, maybe people from different cultures, all of these, like, it was really interesting for me, and it put me through different experiences up to I had to come up with, like, the life that I wanted.
As you're at KU and you're kind of learning and kind of getting your roots, what were some of the things that you were studying and learning, and how did that ultimately kind of inform the research that you started to do?
So when I came here, I had an idea what exactly I want to do. I had an advisor, and I discussed that with him. And I remember from his first meeting, he told me to do whatever you have in mind. We need like 25, 30 years to get done. But you're here just to explore something within 5 years and then leave. And you can pursue the rest outside the university. So mainly I wanted to explore something related to digital fabrication and combine it with energy performance of the buildings. And the KU that time had like very good labs, fabrication labs, which includes 3D printers, CNC machines, robotic arms. And they have very good settings where I can explore whatever I want. So here, where I started working on developing one specific idea and start testing it.
And that idea was what?
It was creating facade texture or cladding texture and testing the energy performance of it. Like, what is the effect of CNC machine in creating cladding texture, and what is the effect of this texture on heat transfer through building skins?
So if I'm understanding this right, instead of like kind of one big large shade, it's like a lot of like little tiny shades kind of built into the facade in that way?
Exactly. So I'm a believer of passive systems. I always feel like any system should be integrated into the facade, not something added to it. So by using a specific texture first, it can give a story or it can improve the concept of the design, and at the same time, it can be helpful and useful in terms of performance.
It seems, a lot of the stuff that we've kind of heard in the news or any of kind of the bigger stories that you've seen have been more of like that additive printing, or like with the giant, 3D printers that Icon's doing with like printing, 3D printing the houses, right? Talk to me about just kind of going kind of against that with like the CNC and kind of when you're like removing material to kind of get these facades. How does that ultimately kind of affect the designs that you can kind of embellish on?
So actually, CNC machines, if you're familiar with, it's a very robust machine. It has a lot of tools, a lot of tool paths as well. And all of these can affect the patterns that are produced at the end. And the best thing about the CNC machine that you have a high level of control on the geometry that you will create. And this was like one of the things that I was really interested in. Like, I want to create one specific geometry, and I don't want the machine to tell me what exactly I want to do. I want to tell the machine what I want to do. And I explored the 3D printer, and I explored the robotic arms. And the control over there, I didn't like that much. And sometimes, like, even the thickness could be like different by some small portions, but this is not the thing that I want. I wanted to create specific depth, specific dimension for this texture. That's why I used the CNC machine.
What kind of materials are you routing, and then how are you testing that kind of stuff?
So this is the cool thing about the CNC machine. I used to create like a mold, and with the mold, I can create multiple options or multiple copies with different materials, and that will save also a lot of cost and a lot of time for me. So I wanted to create something by using actual building materials or something very close to the construction that we're using. And right now, I used to use concrete, clay, and terracotta. These are the main three materials that I tested. But mainly, like with the CNC machine, I create a mold, and then from the mold, I reproduce the textures or the tiles with actual material.
I don't want you to have to consolidate 5 years of research into one succinct statement, but I guess what were your kind of major findings there? Through the course of that testing and that processing, what were some of those kind of, what surprised you most about that entire process?
Oh, it was a very fun process. It was a bit long because I did first simulation testing, but like always, you have to validate the simulation. So I did also experimental work. So I recreated all of these tiles, and I tried to test their energy performance. So I tested all the heat transfer through them, and I tried to understand what's the difference between these tools. And if you can see the tiles, the textures are very different in very small aspects. Like, for example, one of them, I use the tool where the tool has, like, the tip of the tool is 60 degree and the other one is 30 degree. And that was totally different. The performance was totally different between these two. So it was interesting how very small change in the pattern can change the performance totally. So the performance between very slight differences in the shape was very, it was big.
In your perfect world, I guess, what is the end goal? Like, if someone is to take that research and kind of, continue to apply it and build upon it, I guess in a perfect world, in this kind of utopian, blue sky, what is your hope for that essentially?
So my hope for that is to create buildings that consume less energy for cooling and heating. And to reduce that, we need first to reduce the heat transfer through the buildings. And for me, in my ideal world, I think we could develop a pattern or a cladding system where the heat transfer will be minimal, just by using different shapes or different patterns instead of adding extra shading to it.
So again, in the process of your research, you're also teaching, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How was kind of taking a step back and, having kind of the student body there to kind of bounce ideas off and kind of work with, how did that inform your work? And did that give you kind of any sort of additional insights on what you were doing or kind of how to approach it?
So the entire, I think, network in the universities here makes all your ideas different, because not just me teaching, that's one layer of informing my work and my research, and me working with an advisor, that's another layer of informing my research. So it was for me a dialogue between these three parts, and that's what made me every time or every 3-4 months when I do some test, I could add or remove something out of it. The teaching experience was totally, it was satisfying, to be honest, because it has different layers to it. First, I was teaching in Jordan as well, but the teaching experience here is totally different. The relationship between the professor and the student is totally different. So that made me develop some different set of skills.
Yeah, what way is it different?
So in Jordan, the relationship, it's mainly you listen, you learn, and you do your job. That's it. But here it's more of a dialogue. It's you, if you are a student or if you are the professor, you will challenge each other. You will learn from each other. But this was something new to me, and I learned a lot from it, actually. And being able to interact with the students, it added a lot to my research, especially when I start working on parametric design. They since they are also younger, they sometimes have more access to new technology. I don't know it, so I learned that from them.
I'm going to pull up your publications here real quick, and I want you to explain them to me as if I was a child. So this one from 2024, Predictive Model for Optimal Growth and Benefits of Exterior Building Integrated Vegetation.
Okay, so this one I worked with my advisor on, and it was a side project, not related to my research, but it's something I was really interested in. First, I wanted to explore some parametric scripting using Grasshopper, and at the same time, I would like to know how strong are these tools in sustainable design. So the main idea is in an urban settings, how you can use a greenery, and that greenery, what's the effect of greenery in urban settings where you can see differences in temperature. So we tested that, we created scripts, we tried to come up with a system where we can specify which areas are best for greenery in the urban setting, and then testing by adding this greenery, how many degrees we can lower the temperature over there.
What was your ultimate finding? I mean, was that something that had some kind of actionable results?
Yeah. So with that one, it was like right now I'm working on step 2 for that research. That was the step 1 is testing just the model itself and see if we can get a tangible results. And with that one, it was just getting one neighborhood, and the neighborhood was in New York. Taking that neighborhood and adding greenery on specific spots where we connected to the climate, and then to some GIS model, and then we try to specify these are the areas where if we added greenery, that will reduce the temperature. And that really reduced it, around 3 to 4 degrees lower than the actual ones during summer, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, I've got another one for you here. Are you naming these? Why are they so hard? Are they hard on purpose? Because I understand like these are very smart people that are reading through these abstracts and things like this. But I think a part of our conversation will be like the transference and acceptance of the research kind of in the real world. And so like my first question is like, why do you make them hard? Do you make the names hard on purpose?
No, of course no. But from the name, you should like have an idea what is this paper talking about. So for example, with this one, it's a parsing tool. So instead of saying like, okay, for all this area and this neighborhood, we will use, let's say, this type of trees. This tool will parse that area into 3 different sub areas and tell us like for area 1 you can use tree type 1, for area 2 you will use tree type 2, and for area 3 another type. So you should give an idea, like it's keyword for what you will find in the paper.
Okay. Because I'm used to just coming from the movies, it's like the blank, like it's like one word, so that's like I got to read more than I have to. I start to get stressed out. Okay, I have one more here because this one was very interesting as I was going through it. Building, was this one you just kind of talked about? Okay, building surface thermal. All right, what else we got? This was, I think, one of the first ones. This has the most citations. Energy efficient glass, a way to reduce energy consumption in office buildings in Oman.
So that was my first research on building facades. And with that one, and that actually like sparks the idea of doing more research about building performance. In that time, I was really interested in building facades, and it was booming in that year where every new building in Amman was built out of glazing. So it was new to me, like why everyone's just going for this type of material. So I tried to study the type of glazing that's used for all of these buildings, and it was, unfortunately, like the industry over there that time was not too advanced. So not all glazed buildings were built out of good glazing or let's say good performing glazing. So that means, it looked pretty from the outside, but cooling and heating was something awful over there. So with this publication, I just made a comparison between different type of glazings and what exactly will improve or how we can improve the performance of this building in that specific climate.
You talked about in Jordan, like the market not really being receptive to the application of a lot of the research. How has that changed in America?
Oh, it's totally different. So the market in Jordan is very small, and also economy over there is not that good. So investors, they have specific ideas. It's really hard to change their mind of using different materials or different technology.
What are they used to? Like what is the typical building that they're trying to build over there?
So we have concrete buildings, and like in the past maybe 15 years, they start using steel structure and glazing for most of the high-rise buildings. So these are like mainly the two things. With residential buildings, it's like copy-paste, almost like all buildings, almost the same. So this is mainly the industry over there. But coming here, everything is different. The culture is different. The economy is different. Even like when I'm talking to designers, they accept ideas. In Jordan, they are a bit like I'm not sure if I should say that, but they are afraid to use new stuff. But here, no, the industry in general, they like to try new ideas.
You use this phrase in your research a lot, which is biomimicry. Explain to me what that is and how that's kind of seen in your work.
So biomimicry, a trend in sustainable architecture where designers, actually it's not just in architecture. So biomimicry, it's a term in, you can find it in medicine, in engineering, in different fields. And in architecture, it means that you mimic something, you find something in nature and you mimic it in architecture. It could be pattern, system, or maybe material, whatever you find, something interesting, you find it in nature. So for me, I started looking at different natural skins and try to understand the geometry over there, because I believe nature has everything in the correct formula. So the geometry has something to do, the system has something to do, even the color or the material for everything, insects, human, because like we're part of the nature, trees, everything in this nature has a function. Nothing like was made just by coincidence. Everything has a function, has a purpose. So for me, I'm interested in the geometry itself, and some of the textures that I already tested, they were inspired by nature. So for example, one of these textures were the thorny devil. It's some sort of animal, like lives in the desert, and it has very rough texture. And if you read more about this animal, it's very resilient to the warm climate. So I believe that this texture, it's not just a texture. It has a function.
Right.
And when I studied that, like, yeah, scientists, they found like a lot of functions because of that texture, and that's why I mimicked that one.
It seems like you kind of continually go back to your upbringing and kind of the kind of Jordanian way of life to kind of inform a lot of the work and the research. I guess, how often are you kind of getting to go back and recharge your batteries? And I guess how has it changed since you've left?
It changed a lot, actually. Like, I think it's all over the world. There is a period before COVID, and there is a period after COVID.
Definitely. You're definitely right there.
So life is different everywhere. People's perception about different things is different. Sustainable-wise, is still... we're doing a little bit better back in Jordan, but still it's not advanced as in, like, for sure maybe, about Gulf countries, which are Dubai, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and how advanced is sustainability over there. In the other part of the Middle East, which is Jordan part of, we are still not that advanced. So I hope one day I can, like, try to make a change over there, maybe take some of the things that I'm learning over here and apply it over there.
With all of this focus on, advancing technologies and kind of pushing the needle forward, I guess, what excites you most about the future?
I have a dream, and I hope one day I can achieve it, which is coming with a system, and that, like, for the facade, for sure, and that facade system can interact with the environment by itself. So if it's warm or if it's cold, it can do something by itself without any electrical or any mechanical system, and it can change something so the interior environment will stay the same all the time. That's why I was studying biomimicry, and I believe biomimicry could lead us to something like that.
If there was a world that there was no more glazing, I guess, what would be your answer to that?
No glazing?
Yeah, like there's no more glass. How is what you're doing change that? Like, how does it, I guess, where do you kind of take that challenge on?
Oh, so that's really interesting, because, like, you need some transparency in the envelope, in any building envelope. You cannot live in a black box. Like, we as a human, we need to see stuff. We need to get access to natural lighting, access to views, access to nature, if not physically, visually. And also, like, both are important. Both has different effect on our mood and our life and our bodies. So if we exclude something from our life, we will find a way to get another alternative. So I think in that scenario, we will come up with a way to to get openings in the opaque facade, but not glazing, like something different. But it could be, it could do the same function, but not glazing. It could be something else.
This is technically cheating, but have you ever seen like the Starship Earths that they have out in like Taos and like in New Mexico? They like build them into the banks and they use the beer bottles or like the old Coke bottles. I think that's technically cheating to my answer, but every time I go into those, I'm like, this is so cool. I love, you know, it's a little bit of it's kind of like living in a house built out of trash, but then a little bit is just like using what you have, and you know how they'll have like the tires that they'll fill with like earth, and that kind of helps build like some sort of like structural wall. Same thing with like the you know, glass bottles that kind of they kind of create their own little like insulator, but they also allow light to pass through. Like I appreciate those. I appreciate those like design choices. That's like, I guess it is low-hanging fruit a little bit, but it's also like, it's right there in front. Like the answer's right there.
Exactly.
Like don't think about it too hard. Just go with it, you know, kind of like the skin, you know.
Yeah, and when you have a problem, you will find a lot of answers. But since right now we don't have it as a problem, like we have a glazing over there, we can create whatever dimension of a window we need. So that's fine. But once like we wake up in the morning and there's no glazing in the world, I'm sure you will find like at least 100 options that you can use.
Well, that kind of goes into it because like you know, I'm doing school right now, and you know we'll get these you know, design parameters. So it's like, oh, you can only you know, only 10% of the facade can have glazing on it, right? But then like I look outside or I look for like reference, and you see, you know, to your point, like all of these buildings that are just like all glass, and you're like, well, clearly like there wasn't any sort of like design, you know, cut off there. And I understand some of it's just kind of giving a you know, a framework to work within, but it's almost like there's so many, you know, you like actually test these ideas like in real life, and you don't see that. So I guess what has been the most surprising as far as like taking your research and kind of applying it to the real world?
So research like has different aspect to it. It's not necessarily like I'm taking the same research and go and apply it to one building. The main idea of research is I developed a couple of skills, and I'm using these skills to inform some real world ideas or applications. So for example, right now I'm working on a lot of performance analysis, and all of these performance analyses are 100% related to my research. Because in my research, like the only thing that I was doing for the texture, the patterns and textures is to understand their performance. And right now it's the same. And I'm trying to help designers and architects to understand how this building will perform, which material will perform in this area better than the other. If we are designing something in Dallas, it's totally different than designing something else in New York. So all of that, something I can help them, and with that, I can, like their design will be data-driven. It's not like something the designer liked.
What are you most proud of so far?
That's a good question. I think I'm proud that I feel right now in my role, I can make an impact, and that's what I always wanted. When I was in architecture school, I wanted to create or to design something pretty, but at the same time, I wanted something with good impacts on people's lives. And right now, when I'm doing all of these performance analysis and I help designers to make good decisions for their designs, I feel like I'm helping the environment because, like, as you know, architecture produce a lot of CO2 emission and consume a lot of energy. And this is something I really don't like, and I feel it's our responsibility to reduce that. And by working with architects, that makes me, or with designers, that could help reduce the energy consumption and at the same time reduce the CO2 emissions from buildings.
Yeah, you know, a lot of our service teams, you know, they do have architectural backgrounds. Is it hard for you to not kind of interject your opinion or things like that when you're looking at designs?
Oh yeah, that's actually a struggle. Like sometimes, like I have to respect my role, and my role right now is not a designer, a sustainability analyst, and I have to like to give my feedback on the analysis, on the performance. But sometimes I feel like I'm fighting myself to not say anything about the design. Most of the time I don't say anything, but sometimes when I feel like there is a big something and it's annoying me, I can like approach the designer and say my opinion.
Yeah.
But in general, I try not to do so.
It's hard. But I think too, I mean, I think that's the nice thing about Corgan too, is that everyone is kind of, sometimes it's like the best idea wins, not necessarily your idea.
Yeah.
And so it is pretty collaborative where, we do so much with like the forums that you do get, so people kind of throw in additional ideas and it's like, yeah, okay, haven't thought of that. Like, let's fold that in, at least like see if it works, right? Because if it's, to just say no, I think we've got a very, there's a big, in improvisation, there's the yes and, right? Like you never say no to an idea. You say yes and how can we kind of push it forward? Because it's like, worst case scenario, but like, if it doesn't work, then who cares, right? But at least let's try it. Let's see where it goes, because ultimately, like, it's to serve the client and create like the best design possible. So
exactly, I think collaboration is the best thing here.
It really is the only thing. I don't know. Nothing happens in a vacuum, and I guess I don't know of another industry that's. I can't imagine not being collaborative. I know that's a double negative, but it's like it doesn't seem like why you would want to do something in a vacuum. Like our entire culture, our entire existence is built around our relationship with other people. So how you could even attempt to do something in your own solo track. I know that there's like, people that just have their own businesses and are like their own kind of sole proprietors, but I feel like I get so much. This is me as an extrovert saying this. Like, how could you not want to engage yourself like in the human collective, right? You need people with you. You cannot do it. Like, you cannot do anything by yourself. Like, just to be that stubborn and do the thing just your way, you could lose a lot of opportunities. Exactly. Yeah. So you're not leaning into the doctor. You don't introduce yourself as doctor. There's not a PhD after your name on our locator. Like, what gives you all that effort and no doctor? I feel like it's a personal thing. I'm proud with what I achieved. I'm proud that I'm Dr. Eiman Graiz, but I don't feel like it's something people should call me with. I don't feel like it's a title everyone should be aware with. It's like a personal achievement. I'm using it through every day in my work, but I don't expect anyone to call me doctor now. I feel like it's just. I can't promise you I won't. If you don't want me to. Sometimes, like some of the people here in Corgan, they call me doctor just like to tease me because they know that for me, it's not a title that I would like anyone to call me with. Well, I was surprised to find out that we have several doctors working. Oh yeah. Several doctorates, which is, maybe I'm, inflating the importance of that, but I think that's super cool. Like I got such a kick out of it, and that was kind of the spur of like our conversation and bringing on. I just thought that was cool. But fast forward to getting your doctorate and people calling you doctor even though you hate it. I guess what kind of work are you doing now, and kind of how has the past informed the present? So right now, I'm a sustainability analyst, which means I analyze different designs, and I'm trying to inform or helping designers to inform their designs. So there are different types of analysis. We have performance analysis, we have material analysis, we have carbon analysis. So all of these, I'm part of them. I can help designers understand their designs and how much negative impact or positive impact these designs could produce. So there are, if you are interested, I can give you like specifically what type of analysis. Yeah, give me a couple. Yeah, give me a couple
So,
ideas.
for example, right now I'm working on visual comfort analysis, which is what's the effect of daylighting and glare on our performance inside any building. And different buildings, for sure, has different percentage of glare that we can understand. So, for example, here in the 50th floor, sometimes people complain about glare, and this could be a problem and affect people's work. Another type of analysis is LCA, which is life cycle assessment, which means with that type of analysis, I can tell you how much the materials that you're using in the building can produce CO2 emission. So with that, I can help designers to maybe change their material selection and choose better materials.
Right. How much emphasis are you putting on the data to get them to change and can it present? I mean, by and large, like when you present someone with analysis, they're like, oh, this is great. Let me take this and work it back. There's not a whole lot of like defensiveness in the design, right?
So the thing that right now, me and my team, not just my work, it's a teamwork. And we are trying to work with designers since day one. So, because like always, if you want to do any change at the end of the design, no one will do the change. Yes. Like, okay, we know that this is negative, but we're not changing it. So we are trying to start working with them early in the design phases and try to inform the design step by step. And with that, like we're seeing some changes in the design or how the building is oriented or what type of materials they are using in the for the facades, or maybe what is the window wall ratio for each in each facade. So we are seeing some differences right now. The other aspect is the client, and when we talk or when we engage in conversation with the client, some clients are very open and they want to see some positive impact for their building. Some of them, they are not too open. So there are like different aspects you have to take into consideration. You cannot say like it's just the designer or it's just the client. And also the money aspect is something. Regulation is another thing. So you have to put everything in one spot and then make the final decision.
Or at least give them put everything, like you said, like kind of lay it all out and say like, okay, well, here's all the information. Now it's your opportunity to make this decision, but at least, every single one of those choices has been, qualified or quantified in a way that is kind of easily digestible. I've seen a lot of the work that you've done. I think one of the things that is cool for me to see is that it's very much, you're pulling in a lot of these, a lot of this technical information and kind of not distilling it to a way that makes it, untrue or overstated, but it's like, it's able to kind of very easily like at a glance in the same way that we would do with our designs, right? Where it's like you look and you understand, okay, I understand the basic path of this. In the same way when you're doing, we've done some solar studies in the past, you're like, oh, I get it. Like here, and here, and kind of the solutions, like when we did the, those shading designs, like you're able to see like, oh yeah, the, east-west orientation, this particular fin would work, better. And then you're kind of starting to see those drops. And I think that's so helpful when it's like, I agree. I think most clients would agree, like they want what is best for their end user. And it's just like, how do I get there? Like, what do I not know? Right. And I think that's so helpful that you're taking them, kind of holding their hand literally and metaphysically, right, to kind of get to that answer.
Like always, we're trying to present our work for designers or for the client by emphasizing on three things. First, the environmental benefits, then the health benefits, and the third is the economical benefits. Because you're not just saving energy, you're improving your employees' health. At the same time, the energy bill can be much lower than the original one. So just getting all these benefits by changing one design decision, that's amazing.
Well, and I feel like too, there's a fourth there, which is like just the goodwill that a client gets from just trying to do better, right? We've done a couple of like net zero or even like net positive buildings, and I mean, there's just and not to say you're just doing it, for the press, but it is something that is, I think, remarkable, and I think that makes people kind of perk up when it's like, no, hey, we're trying to do this in a way that it's, it's almost like the double bottom line, right? It's like you're not just trying to, make a building and have a space where your people can do the work and obviously run a business, but it's like you're also trying to make a place that succeeds in its own right. And I think there's definitely been a bigger push, I think, definitely in this millennium, and I think as we've kind of moved forward with, all of the climate change, every, bit that is, I think, people's ears are really attuned to, that you get a sense of like, oh, however its end result kind of gets affected. It's like, look, they went and made an attempt to make a space that obviously, like you said, is good, makes good business sense, is good for their client, good for the environment, good for their people, right? Good economically, and then also kind of serves that kind of fourth humanitarian effort. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I consistently see that a lot more in our clients' work of like, it's not all, but for those that are like, we want to make a definitive impact, we don't care what it costs. This needs to be something that speaks to our brand, to our values, to our ideals. I think that's really cool to see.
So this is the thing, that it can speak to your values and to your brand, but at the same time, it could be sustainable. So this is something we are trying to add to most of our projects. That sustainability is something integrated to the process. It's not something.
It's not an add-on.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, there is something I always like think about it. Like, we as a human, we spend 90% of our time inside buildings. So imagine if you are in, when you go to work, you are in unhealthy environment, same like building-wise. Unhealthy environment, same with your house, same if you will go to the gym or in a grocery store. That's really bad. Like 90% of your work inside or of your time is inside. It's a long time. So we should just be very careful, and we should be very responsible on how we are creating these environments.
What are some of the misconceptions that people have about your work?
Okay, that's a good question. First, that it's just like something to show clients, and that's it.
Okay.
Like, it's just nice, colorful images. Shows like...
That's the Media Lab's job, okay?
No, but really, like, some people, they just see it as colorful heat maps, and that's it. Like, we want it in the presentation. It's not necessarily to understand what is it, just we want it to be there. So I don't like this idea. Like, when one designer will tell me that, I will feel like, this is not the idea of creating. Like, first, we're spending time to do that. And second, it has tons of data that we could use. Right. So this is like one thing I really wish if everyone can change his mind about.
In the Media Lab, we always have like what's our hot sports opinion? Basically, like what's a take that you have? Like, what is something? It's something that you stand for, like that you believe in, and that you maybe feel like people maybe not like take, to heart. Mine is always like, I don't like a building that has more than 5 materials. I think it's distracted and it's wrong. I don't necessarily think that a building with 1 material works the best, or like a facade material, right? Not a construction material. That's mine. Like, I felt that way before I started architecture school. Like, that's how I feel now. My father-in-law is an architect. We've gotten many fights about it. Like, but it's something that like I'm super passionate about. I guess, is there, ultimately, like, where does your passion lie, and like, why is it so important to you to do this work?
So for me, I feel like we as a human, we are destructive and we are ruining this planet. And I have really very strong connection with nature, and I feel it's our responsibility to keep this planet healthy. And that's why I always push toward like trying to add greenery in the building or biophilic design, and trying to do the least negative impact in your project. on the environment for sure. So for me, trying to add natural elements in your project, trying to protect the maximum nature that you can protect or you can save, that will be the best thing that as an architect you could do. At the same time, you have to provide access to nature, visual access, physical access. For me, nature is the best. So if you don't have the chance to get access to nature, that's why I always ask for some biomimicry ideas, because that will still connect to nature, but in a different way. So instead of having a tree, you could like mimic a tree in your interior space. So for me, it's always nature, but it's not necessarily to be the exact nature that we know. It's not necessarily to have a rock inside the place or a tree inside the place. But at the same time, you could try to learn from nature and try to make this building act as natural element.
Eiman, thank you so much for your time. Any last words for our audience before you leave?
Yes, so please take care of yourself and try to be responsible while you're designing whatever building you're designing, and try to include nature in your work. Whatever form of nature is fine, and try to think about the environment and about our planet.
That was great. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time on The Square.